Hi, and welcome back to Olive Oil Drops, the first podcast entirely dedicated to olive oil and olives. This podcast is created by Marco Antonucci. This is an English version. I'm Milena. In this episode, I want to share a story that shows how something as easily overlooked as olive tree leaves can actually become a useful and profitable resource. The inspiration comes from two events in Marco's life, and today we'll focus on the more recent one. The second will be the topic of the next episode. A few years ago, Marco visited the Dindal Research Institute in India, located about 30 kilometers outside Jaipur, the capital of Rajasthan. Rajasthan in northern West India is well known for its rich cultural heritage, historical sites, and scenic landscapes that blend deserts with extensive farmland. After arriving in the area, you leave the main road and drive several kilometers through fields until you reach the research center. It's surrounded by tall walls, giving it the feel of a high-security military base. The main building, home to offices and labs, is huge and looks like a 1960s university science department. In front of it, there is a vast area of nurseries where different kinds of plants are being grown and tested. As you walk through rows of colorful peppers, you eventually come to the greenhouses where you will find olive trees growing. Because of the intense heat and high humidity, the plants were growing incredibly fast. Shrubs that were just 10 to 12 months old had already reached the size of trees that would typically take 2 to 3 years to grow in Mediterranean climates. The cultivars being tested included Barnea, Koroneiki, Picholin, Picual, Arbequina, and even some selections of Coratina and Frantoio. This wasn't a random choice. After several years of study and collaboration with Israeli experts, these varieties were selected because their countries of origin, like Israel, southern Spain, and Morocco, have climates somewhat similar to that part of India. Plus, they are known for their quick growth and early production cycles. The plants were propagated through cuttings and planted in the field after little more than 2 years, spaced at 4 by 4 meters. These fields were located outside the main compound. But the researchers hadn't accounted for one major environmental factor: the high humidity and persistently warm nighttime temperatures, which ultimately prevented the olive trees from producing fruit. Still, the trees themselves were thriving. The foliage was dense and lush. Some of the oldest trees, around 10 years old, looked much older due to their size and the way their canopies had grown together. So, why not focus on the leaves, which were clearly flourishing? And that's exactly what they did. They redirected their efforts towards the leaves, essentially salvaging the work of the past several years. Leaves were harvested by hand during the spring and summer, and again in fall if needed. After harvesting, they were washed, dried, and ground. Then came a unique process and method, different from the more traditional approaches used in places like Italy to produce herbal teas or infusions, or spirit from olive leaves. Sometimes a small amount of aromatic herbs like basil or mint were added. The full process wasn't completely disclosed, as it was still being refined and partly protected as a trade secret. What was shared, though, is that the core of the process involves extracting a carefully measured concentration of polyphenols. This extract is then used in other preparations. The method preserves the natural health properties of the leaves while also enhancing their flavor, making them pleasant to consume as an infusion. The final product is packaged in small 6 per 7 centimeters filter bags, just like the ones commonly used for tea. Marco had the opportunity to try the infusion. The bags were steeped in hot water, ideally between 80 and 85 degrees Celsius, and left to infuse for a few minutes, just as one would with any herbal tea. The aroma was complex, with floral and nutty notes, similar to high-quality tea. And the flavor? Surprisingly smooth. The bitterness was barely noticeable, and the taste lingered pleasantly. Marco said that if he hadn't known it was made from olive leaves, he would have assumed it came from a specialty tea shop. In short, it is a simple product to make. It's inexpensive, has a long shelf life thanks to the drying process, and if packaged and marketed properly, it can command a premium price. Marco's story is a great example of how even an overlooked part of the olive tree, its leaves, can be turned into a viable product. And it is especially interesting considering that this product, now found on the shelves of upscale stores in a few Indian cities, actually came from what was originally an experiment that didn't go exactly as planned. Think about it. In a country where olive cultivation is practically non-existent, where the climate isn't ideal, and where tea dominates the beverage culture, the team still managed to create a high-quality, marketable product. This experience not only highlights the incredible versatility of the olive tree, but also offers a real path for diversifying production and making use of what would otherwise be waste. So, what's actually in an olive leaf? While the exact composition can vary depending on the cultivar growing conditions and soil, on average, a leaf contains 50% water, 10 to 30% carbohydrates, 5% minerals, 5% lipids, and 10 to 15% protein. But the most interesting part for those looking to process the leaves, it is secondary metabolites, particularly the polyphenols. One of the most notable is oleuropein, which can reach concentration as high as 90 milligrams per gram of dried leaf. Additionally, olive leaves contain flavonoids, chlorophylls, elenolic and oleanolic acids, rutin, calcium, phosphorus, tannins, apigenin, choline, and other beneficial compounds. So, we are not talking about a simple decorative part of the tree, but a powerhouse of natural elements. These compounds not only support the tree's growth and resilience to harsh weather, but also offer strong antioxidant properties for human use. Interestingly, these beneficial compounds are most concentrated in the warmer months. So, if you are looking to make olive leaf products, summer is the best time to harvest. In the next podcast, I'll share another experience of Marco's, this time closer to home. We'll also talk about the actual production and selling prices, giving you a better idea of the business potential behind this unexpected product. If you wish to ask us questions, you can do so either by email, oliveoildrops@gmail.com, website www.oliveoildrops.com, where you can also find texts of this podcast both in Italian and English, or comment space of the podcast platform you have been using and to which you can subscribe free of charge. Thank you for joining us today.